Rosters are changing. OTAs are starting. The league is under a lot of transformation this particular week. As rosters start to come together, the competition against the Chiefs is climbing as well. We're going to go over all of it and where the Chiefs are at as they start phase 3 today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. I know you're itching for football content, and we're going to have it very, very soon. This is going to be a fun one. Thanks for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for free. If you would, grab another Locked On show. If you're into hockey, I suggest the Avalanche Locked On show. I think you guys will dig it. A lot going on there. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, as well as NFL33.com, where we talk league matters all the time. We're going to talk about some of those today. Really interested to see where we go as we're just waiting patiently for Chiefs to get on the field.
Yeah, eventually we will get some Chiefs news. We were hoping we were going to have it today. We do not. OTAs were not open to the public to media, so we will get more information on that tomorrow. We do have a lot to talk about, though. My name is Chris Clark, founder of Chiefs Corner. You can find me at KC Chiefs Corner, as it says on the screen. Thank you for all the new subscriptions to YouTube. Like, sub, and hit the notification bell if you would. And please leave us iTunes reviews. We really appreciate those as well. And as Ryan always says, he likes the 5-star variety.
Yeah, they're my favorite.
Yeah. I will say this, and I want to start with this. One of the things that is coming out is that right now, Justin Herbert is the odds-on favorite to be the NFL MVP.
That's cute.
And the Chargers are probably also, I think, the second or third best team in football, according to prognosticators.
And who are they? That's what I want to know.
NFL people around the league. I mean, the Bills are number one, are pretty much the media darling right now because they have such a great team. And I'm not going to say that they don't. They have, on paper, they are a good team. But
I like that.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
6 years straight, Chargers are going to win the West.
Right. I mean, the Bills are a formidable team. That's legit. That last game that it took the Chiefs to beat them, that's legit. They deserved that. I don't remember the Chargers being in an offseason playoff game like that.
No, you're not wrong.
Okay.
But let's also talk about the fact that the Chargers needed the Chiefs to be missing 2 starters to even have a chance to beat them in Los Angeles. And if Staley makes the right calls as a head coach, they probably win that game and sweep the Chiefs, and maybe they make the playoffs instead of Kansas City. Who knows? I think that lost.
Why you got to go make sense?
Wow. Yeah, well, because I saw Charger people talking about how great Justin Herbert is and how he's this Greek god because of his physique. And I'm just sitting here going, last time I checked, that's not what makes a great quarterback. But hey, you do you. Pretty sure one of the best QBs, and I hate saying this, but one of the best QBs of all time was Tom Brady, and we all know how he looked coming out of college.
Nothing against you, Tom. You're all right.
Yeah. Shots fired, right? So
yeah, hey.
It's a lot of fun to talk about this time of year. Obviously, like I said, 6 years running, the Chargers have been picked to be the best team. And I will say this, going back and forth with the Locked On Chargers hosts, talking about how their defense is so legit this year compared to past years, and their depth is so much more insane than it has been in the past. And I'm sitting there going, when have you beat Kansas City in a really meaningful game in the last couple of years? I mean, don't get me wrong, they beat Kansas City, but they beat Kansas City in Kansas City because the Chiefs turned the ball over 4 times.
Yeah, let's not do that. Fix that problem. You're probably got to win.
And the Chiefs were missing Willie Gay and Snead, and Ward had been sick that week going into that game in Los Angeles, and they still couldn't beat Kansas City.
I say this to my kids all the time. Hey, if it hurts when you do that, don't do that. So, hey, don't turn the ball over and you'll be just fine.
Yeah. So, say what you want. A lot of people will argue, where the different QBs land in this league and whatnot, and that's fine. Say what you want about Josh Allen. I think he's a great quarterback. I think he can be one of the best in the NFL by the time everything's said and done with how far he's come. I think that's the important factor, is that he has improved so much from where he got drafted. It's night and day difference.
Yeah.
And if Buffalo can continue to surround him with talent, then I think they're going to be in a good position to compete. Does that mean they're going to win the Lombardi this year? It's possible. I'm not betting on it, but it's possible.
Right. I don't know why you would bet on that, but I think there's a lot of question marks, and I like those matchups. I'm excited because I do enjoy watching quarterback battles, and it's great to have Mahomes because you're going to come out on top of that most of the time. But Josh Allen is legit. Herbert is legit, not because of his physique, but he is legit. And if they give him the weapons and the protection, he'll be nearly as good. I think he and Burrow are a tier just slightly below Mahomes and Allen, but I think the four of them are the future.
No, I agree completely, and I think that it's awesome to see two guys like Mahomes and Herbert in the same division. I think that's going to be a lot of fun for the next several years. I want to be clear. I'm not saying the Chargers can't win the division in the future because I think that's obviously there's ebbs and flows. Eventually, Kansas City will lose. I don't think that they're going to continue to be the division winners for the next 30 years, although that'd be awesome. But you look at what Herbert has done. He is surpassed anything that I expected of him coming out of college. I thought he was going to be okay. I didn't expect him to be this good. So I think he's still improving. I think he has a little ways to go. And if they can surround him with talent over the next several seasons, they have an opportunity to make it run as well because he's still on a rookie contract for a couple more years, kind of like Josh Allen is under his rookie contract. And that makes a huge difference in how you build your team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just perusing those three other quarterbacks' schedules. And the Chiefs are in trouble just because they have the hardest schedule. The Bengals and Bills, they're going to face the Ravens. They're going to face, the Bengals get the Saints. That's a tough win, too. Bucks are on the Bengals schedule as well. For the Bills, I think it's a touchy, but the Packers coming. They have their own division, obviously, and they have the Ravens and Steelers in out of division contest as well as the Chiefs. So, there's a pretty good setup.
But the Bills, who in their division is anywhere close to Buffalo?
That's a good question.
I don't think there's anybody in their division that probably in even the tier just under the Bills. You could make an argument that Kansas City has teams that maybe two teams that are in at least two of the tiers just below where Kansas City is, in the Chargers and maybe even the Broncos.
And that's fair. Yeah.
Or the Raiders, whichever way you want to go.
I think the Dolphins could give them a little bit of something maybe if they come together. We'll see how that works. But, with Tyreek there, revenge games and what have you, I like Waddle a lot too. Everybody forgets he had 108 catches last year. So Waddle's a good one. But, yeah, you're right. Did the Patriots do anything to help themselves this offseason? Not really. I mean,
my question with the Dolphins is always going to be, what can Tua do? Is he going to get them to over the hump? And the team is only going to go as far as the QB will take it. Kansas City saw that over and over with Alex Smith.
That's fair. So the AFC, there is some legit competition. There are some teams that are going to have a little bit easier than others, but I think also a lot of things are going to change. They are starting OTAs across the league this week. The Chiefs hopefully will have some specific information for them as soon as tomorrow, knock on wood. But there are other things going on around the league that we should probably discuss because everything has a bearing on the way this next season is going to go.
It absolutely does. And this Chiefs team has got to be hungry for getting back in the saddle after last year's AFC Championship game. It was a horrible loss. And I think that they have to be really hungry. And it looked like, at least from what I saw in the tweets about practice today, that there were a lot of Chiefs players there. I saw Kelsey, I saw Mahomes. It looked like everybody was there. So that's a good sign going forward. But let me tell you about our friends over at Built Bar. Built Bar has a new flavor. Well, actually, they brought back a flavor. Built Bar granola is back. Built Bar granola bars come in 3 unbelievable flavors: chocolate peanut butter, chocolate coconut, and white chocolate berry. Want to try all flavors? You can get a mixed box at built.com right now. These are so different from the bars and puffs. Built granola bars are loaded with granola. It's a perfect combination of crunch and chewiness. But just like the bars and puffs, these babies are packed with protein and covered in 100% real chocolate. With 150 calories, 15 grams of protein, and only 4 grams of sugar, Built granola bars will change your world. Built has cracked the code to a better granola. Go to Built.com to get Built granola bars right now. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15, and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com.
I tell you what, I'm interested in that as well. And folks, check out the Locked On Sports Today show. I don't think you want to miss that. It is relaunched. It's a new format. I think you're going to dig it, especially right now with all the playoffs going on in the other sports. And yes, I do call them the other sports, but you can get everything that you need, recaps, real quick takes, and take of the day, actually. So check that out on Odyssey and YouTube and everywhere you get podcasts. Around the league, there's some meetings going on. There's some things that stand out. What is probably at the top of the list for you?
There's a ton of things that are going on. I don't want to say that there's really anything at the top of the list. I do think that it's really interesting that they've made a little bit of a slight change to the Rooney Rule. Obviously, the Rooney Rule has not worked to the way that the teams or that the league has wanted it to over the past couple of years. You look at cases. I mean, you can look at Kansas City with Eric Bieniemy not getting a job as reasons for changes to be needed, but the change that they made is now QB coaches are subject to the Rooney Rule.
I think that's great. You were seeing this is not Doug Williams' day. We're seeing more and more quarterbacks of color be thrust into what is not just the most lauded position, but the most difficult position to jump into the league, especially if you don't play in the SEC or the Pac-12 or one of the Power Fives, right? So I think that as difficult as that becomes, the prevalence of it means that you need to act accordingly for the coaching staff as well. And I think that's good. I won't be surprised, and I would actually support them being across the board. I don't think it matters.
It shouldn't matter. Yeah. I think you're right. I think that there's a lot of changes that need to be made, and I think they're trying to do what they can. Another interesting thing, not to change the subject from that, but to add to that, this also came out in an effort to promote equal employment opportunities. Owners approved a resolution to slow down the interview and hiring process for head coaches. No interviews in person until after wildcard games of any employee of another team. That's a step in the right direction. I think they need to take it a lot further. I think they need to get it to almost Super Bowl week, to be quite honest, because that's going to be mainly your pool.
I think that's great. Honestly, I could live with Pro Bowl weekend the weekend before Super Bowl to say that you can't hire a head coach.
Well, that's what I meant.
Unless he's internal.
Yep, that off week.
Yeah. I like that. And I do like the idea that also kind of harkens back to what we've seen in the past, is that it gives the inside track to somebody that's already in-house, a guy that it promotes promotion from within and not doing the retreads and not jumping ship for, position coaches because they're tied to a certain coach named McVay that you then elevate far beyond experience levels. And I think that's legitimate for not just coaches on the field, but everyone, strength and conditioning, training staff, everybody that takes the health and safety of those players. You have to have, I think, a clear ladder to move up in the league. And I think they've done a very good job in Tampa Bay with not only diversifying by race, but the most women employed by a particular franchise in the league. I think that's changing things. And I think the future is along those lines as well, especially as you look at more and more underclassmen coming out that have to go through not just getting used to what they had in high school to maybe 2 years, say in college environment, where you have to get used to different people that maybe you haven't been exposed to before, but then jumping into the professional ranks, takes it that much farther. And so I think you need to expand the pool across the entire league in every way you can.
Yeah, it's going to be something to watch over the next couple of seasons, how things continue to keep moving. Another thing that came out of league meetings, the Combine is going to stay in Indianapolis. I think that's a fantastic choice. I think, personally, I think that they need to keep it in Indianapolis almost permanently. They've got a perfect setup for it. And unless you're going to have everything that you have in Indy elsewhere, it's just going to become a cluster and it's going to become a mess.
Yeah, I agree. And as someone who has tracked the Combine for over 20 years, I don't think you can do it better in a rotational capacity. And that's not to say that there aren't great facilities in X place or B place, New York, LA, whatever, but it's the constant overturn. Every executive in this league is going to tell you don't move that thing because we have our set ways. We know where everything's at. It allows us to move quicker. And at the end of the day, yes, the on-field drills are important for checking, and some teams use it more than others. but it's the medical screening that you have to have a system to move that many guys through that many medical exams.
That's exactly where I was going to go. That's a huge part,
right?
Yeah,
MRIs to like base physicals to, I mean, they got to get seen by so many people that if you don't have a conveyor belt set up for the players to move through and get all that stuff done, it just makes it that much harder, and that's more stressful on what is a pillar of the offseason for every prospect coming out. So I think that that's key. I wouldn't mind seeing some kind of, I don't know, additional offseason thing, like instead of maybe a regional pro day or something like that, where you had another opportunity to just do the physical testing that you saw a lot of guys opt out for this year that maybe needs to be looked at. The NFL wants to make money. They want to put something in prime time. Let's just not make them go through, 6 a.m. medical exams all the way to 6 p.m. and then go try to run something.
Right. And when we get back, we have a little bit more to talk about when it comes to roster changes and maybe some roster things that are going to be the same as they have been in years past. All right. So one of the other things that came out of these of the NFL owners meetings, and this isn't as big of a thing, but they've kind of changed a little bit how they're dealing with cutdowns. So after the first preseason game on that Tuesday, you have to be down to 85 players. I believe it was 80 last year. So it's less this time around. After the second game, it's 80 players, and then you have to get to 53 after the third game on that Tuesday.
Okay, so more incremental cuts, which is similar to the way it used to be. Okay. So what you're saying is by the time I get to training camp, which is always after the first preseason game, there are going to be at least, 5 players? Yeah, because you're a 90-man roster at camp. They're going to cut the first 5 before I ever get a chance to see them live.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the way it's probably going to work.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that. I think that's probably a good move on the NFL's part. I still think that it's smart to have not to keep 90 players that entire time, because I don't think that's fair to some of the players that have no chance of making the roster to continue to put them through that and not have a chance to go elsewhere. And the likelihood of anybody that's on that fringe 5 making another roster is very slim anyway. So it's going to be very difficult regardless.
Yeah. And at that point, there are, unfortunately, there are haves and have-nots in this league. And I think this league does a better job than, say, baseball and to somewhat degree basketball of not having markets determine the wealth that you can spend, et cetera, et cetera. But there are some teams that don't have 53 guys in their camp roster that should make it. So especially from the Chiefs roster, from the Bills roster, from the Bucks roster, from the Rams, obviously, you're going to have maybe the top 5 or the first 5 that are cut, the bottom 5 on that 90-man. Maybe they can make a roster somewhere else. Get them out there and let them get a chance. I think it's a good thing.
I think you're overly optimistic, but I understand where you're coming from. The other big thing, and this is actually what I'm excited about, and it isn't official yet, but they are talking about continuing to keep the 16-man practice squad. That, in my opinion, is a phenomenal move, and it sounds like they kind of want to do it the same way that they've been doing it the past several years, being able to elevate players. If they do that, the NFL is going in the right direction when it comes to players and player development, because that gives you effectively a 69-man roster in some sorts.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously teams churn. Kansas City is one of those teams that usually churns through players.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you think? Maybe the past several years they've had maybe 8 players that have made it each year through
to
the
the
roster.
elevation point?
No, I'm talking like all 17 weeks they've been on that roster. Those other 8 positions they're regularly churning through.
Yeah.
And then you're probably right. You probably had 5 to 8 that have been elevated in the past couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think this is a great way forward, and I hope that they keep it. Everything that I'm hearing is that it should pass pretty easily, that they will keep those rules in place, and I agree with you. The next thing to fall is getting rid of the game day roster cuts. It's just silly.
I hope so.
53-man active roster, just have the 53.
But we've thought that was going to happen for years, and it hasn't. So I have no idea why. Well, actually, I do know why. It's all about money. It's all about bonuses. It's all about
game day checks. That's what it is.
Game day. Well, it's not game day checks necessarily. It's being active for bonuses more than it's game day checks, because they still get paid if they're on the active roster or just the 53-man roster. They still get a game day check regardless. So it's really more about, are they active? Do they get their roster bonuses?
Right. Because the active bonuses are significant for those guys, especially the ones that are just playing teams that are the last 8 dudes on a roster. So,
yeah, they can be. And the big thing and the big question I have, and this is where I think the sticking point is going to be, is that something that can even be changed until the new CBA? I'm not sure it can. Well,
I don't see why the NFLPA would say no. I'll put it that way. If the owners wanted to do it, I think they could get that done.
Well, no, right, but I don't know that the owners want to do it. That's my point.
Right.
I don't see that. I see that being a concession for the ownership. I don't think that the NFLPA is going to be pushing for it until maybe a new CBA. I know coaches would love it. You're right. You're absolutely right in that regard, but ownership, not so much.
I'll hold my breath.
Well, I would love to see it happen. I just don't expect it. So that is something that I think is going to be a lot of fun to continue to watch, because you get these practice squad players that are able to step in and play roles at times. And who knows, it could be a great role, it could be a bad role. Kansas City had several games last year where they had a guy that got called up that really kind of stung them in getting penalties.
But it's better than the alternative. It's better than playing sub players out of position. So,
no, absolutely. I'm not saying it was bad in that regard. I'm just saying it can help and it can hurt. But it's something that I think needs to continue. And I think the league is actually helping themselves develop talent for future years, because there are going to be people on those practice squads. And I don't know what the percentages are, and I'm sure they're probably pretty low, but there will be guys on those practice squads this year that will eventually make an NFL roster. It could be on an NFL roster for 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
Just because they had the chance to develop.
There is a ton out there. And I'm just glad to see that they're going to have that option and keep doing that. Chiefs are one of those teams that are going to take advantage of it. So, folks, not only do we want to know what you think about the actual practice squad rules, but how crazy is the AFC West talk this year and the AFC talk in general? From what we were talking about today, what's your opinion? Where are the Chiefs in terms of where they should finish, and who is the culprit that's going to be their biggest competition in the AFC? Make sure you leave us your thoughts in the YouTube comments over on iTunes and Spotify as well. We appreciate that. Thank you for liking, subbing, and hitting that bell on YouTube and subbing on the audio platforms. We're free for you every day, and we do this because we love it, but also to help you out so that you don't have to go digging around the interwebs as well. We try to give it to you in 20 to 25 minutes and make it easy. So thank you for your participation. Spread the word. Remember, we're here 5 days a week, all year round, no matter what, except for Monday. On the holiday, we're going to take a day off. We've earned it. So thank you. We appreciate your time and effort. Thank you, Chris, for keeping me straight on all these league happenings that I'm not quite up to date on.
No problem. I actually enjoy this kind of stuff because it shows you the background of how NFL is changing things. And I think that there are probably going to be some more rule changes that we'll see over the next couple of weeks. And there will be more owners meetings later that could change a couple more things. Likely, probably not in 2022, but we'll see. And any new rules we'll let you know about. So thank you all for listening today. We will be back with you tomorrow, hopefully to talk some actual Chiefs news if they allow people to get information out on the OTAs.
I hope so. Thanks for being with us, folks. We'll talk to you tomorrow.